In honor of Sonnet's Garden Blooms Maker's Box 2-year anniversary, the creative team was given a Scavenger Hunt DIY challenge. All of us makers were given a list of 5 items that we either had to thrift or to pull from our inventory, and using the products in the June Maker's Box, we had to flip them. We had to have a box, a basket, a tray, a planter, and a sign. In the last 2 years, not one of us created the same thing. We all have different styles and personalities, so we thought it would be fun to see what each of us came up with using the same items and the products in Sonnet's Maker's Box. I hope this collaboration inspires you to take the same challenge, and I can't wait to see what you create. So what do these 5 random thrift store finds have in common? Absolutely nothing. Until today. Welcome to the Scavenger Hunt DIY Challenge. I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CNC DIY Factory. The first thrifted item on the list is this little box with a handle. It looks like it was originally from Hobby Lobby and was for a wedding, but today it's getting a time-worn makeover. I started by cleaning off the stickers and the foam pads on the bottom, and then I sanded down the words on the front. Then I took the handle off so they would not be in my way while I work on it. I'm applying 1 coat of the raw silk fusion mineral paint from the Maker's Box on the outside around the entire box. I have this set of small stamps that I bought off of Amazon a long time ago, and I want to use this music notes along with the IOD stone gray ink and add a little bit of dimension to the box. Now, hindsight is 2020. If I had realized what I was going to be stamping and the dimensions and everything, I would have done this straight across the center and not start at the top and then have to add extra stamps down at the bottom to fill in the whole thing. But it is what it is. It turned out just fine. Sonnet includes a decoupage napkin in every Maker's Box, and I absolutely love this design. The black and white Harlequin is going to go perfectly with what I have in mind for this box. Thankfully, when I opened up this napkin, the back plies just peeled right off with no problem. I'll do a little bit of measuring here to see where I need to trim this napkin to fit the sides. I'm only going to put this on the 2 sides of the box. I'm using the DIY liquid patina to decoupage the napkin to the box. Now, I like the DIY liquid patina when working with napkins because it's not too thick and it's not too thin, so I'm not struggling with the napkin or tearing it. When I stamp the music notes, I only stamp them on the 2 sides of the box, so you can see the stamp coming through the napkin. I love this effect, and the stone gray ink is the perfect color choice and adds just a little bit of dimension. And then once both sides of the box are completely dry, I'll use my finger sander and sand off the excess napkin. Connie at the Painted Photographer hand draws and paints 2 exclusive designs every month for the Maker's Box. This one is called Whispers Through Time. This design is called a 3-up, so there are 3 images on 1 page, and I love that because you can use it for multiple projects. I'm going to use these 2 smaller pieces or sizes for this box. I'm using a water pen and the wet tear method to go around each image and tear it out so that it has those really nice frayed edges. That'll blend in a little bit better with my background. To add a little more whimsy, I decided to tear these out at opposite angles, and I wanted to make sure I was able to fit the entire design on the front and the back of the box. When I'm using rice paper to decoupage, I like to use the Fusion Mineral Paint decoupage and transfer gel because it is a thicker consistency. I feel like it has a better grip with the paper and really secures it to my surface. So I applied the decoupage and transfer gel to the back of the rice paper, and now I'm adding it to the box, and then I'll smooth that out and seal the top. So I got distracted and totally forgot to hit the record button. So to summarize what I did, I used DIY weathered wood, watered down, and a stencil brush, and I pounced the paint around the images, and then I used the Summer Crush and the Old 57, also from DIY, that was in the Maker's Box this month, and I added some of those colors to the front and the sides, and that tied everything in. So since I used the DIY paint and it is a clay-based paint, it needs to be sealed. I'm using the DIY clear wax, and I'll apply a coat of wax to the entire surface inside and outside. Then I'll add the handle back onto the box, and it is time-worn and transformed. Let me know what you think. So for this project, I am using the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint in the color Gumdrop. This was in the Maker's Box this month. I added a little bit of the patina color to create a custom color that I thought would pair well for this project. My next scavenger hunt item is this basket. It's a blank slate, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. But first, I need to take the handle off to make it easier to work with. The basket looks a little too new and fresh, and I want it time-worn and vintagey. So I'm going to use the DIY Liquid Patina Dark and Decrepit, and I'm going to stain the entire basket and the handle. This creates the perfect color for that time-worn look. I did not stain the inside, but if I want to, I can come back and do that later. And taking the handle off makes it so much easier to work with. Before I apply the milk paint, I want to add some of this beeswax bar from Sweet Pickins. This is a creamy, smooth wax that wherever it's applied, the paint won't stick, and it makes it easy to create that worn, chippy look. Now my milk paint has been sitting here for about 10 minutes to thicken up, but as you can see, the first coat is sometimes scary, but just keep going, trust the process. The second coat is going to look much better. I'm applying the milk paint around the top band of the basket on the outside and the inside as well as the handle. Applying the paint to the handle is a little tricky to say the least, but I figured it out, and with the help of the basket, I got the entire handle painted. So here's the second coat of the milk paint, and you can see it provides much better coverage. I'm only applying 2 coats of milk paint to this basket and the handle. With the help of my heat gun, I dried the milk paint, and now I'm using my finger sander to remove the paint where the beeswax was and to bring back some of that dark and decrepit stain. Milk paint is another paint that must be sealed, or it can be reactivated if it gets wet. Now my favorite sealer for milk paint is the Sweet Pickins Dark Oil Wax. You simply brush it on and you let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes to really soak into the paint. Then you'll use a lint-free towel and wipe it off. If you think you have it all wiped off, go back over it one more time because you might be surprised with how much more of it you can remove. The trickiest part of this makeover was adding the handle back on. Thankfully, the brads that were used to hold it on cooperated, and it looks like it was never taken off. Well, I gotta say I'm in love with this basket now. Let me know if you would have stained the inside as well. The third scavenger hunt item is this tray. Now I love making over trays and I'm excited to get to work on this one. The first thing I need to do is remove all of the stickers and then sand off as much of the red stripes as I can. Once I have all of the sanding dust cleaned up and the tray is wiped down, I'll take the tray outside and I'll give the entire tray one good coat of shellac spray to seal in any discoloration so it will not bleed through my paint. Then I'll give the entire tray one coat of the Fusion Mineral paint in Victorian lace, which was in the maker's box. I still had a good amount of the custom color that I created from the Sweet Pickins milk paint on the previous project, so I'm going to use that on this tray as well. I will paint the entire tray with exception to the inside bottom with this paint. Now once this dries, you'll be able to see the beautiful crackle in the milk paint. The shellac that I added not only seals in any discoloration, but it also helps the milk paint to crackle and craze. And some of the red peeks through the crackle, and I am okay with that. So Royce from Roycycled Decoupage also creates 2 exclusive papers every month for Sonnet's Maker's Box. This one is called Worn Porch Planks, and you can see that this is gorgeous. So I cut out a piece of the decoupage paper to fit down inside of the tray perfectly. And I'm going to use the Fusion decoupage and transfer gel on this one as well. Normally I would use the DIY liquid patina, but I want to make sure that this is really secured to the bottom of this tray. So I'll fold back a portion of the paper and I'll lay down an even layer of the decoupage medium. Then I'll spritz my paper to relax the fibers. Now this helps to smooth out any wrinkles or bubbles in the paper. And then I'll work from the center out and I'll smooth the paper down. I work in sections and all the way across the tray. And once the paper is dry, I'll trim off any excess paper around the inside. And once again, I am turning to my favorite sealer for the milk paint, the Sweet Pickins Dark Oil Wax, and I'll apply the oil wax to the entire tray with exception to the paper, and I'll let it sit for about 15 minutes to soak in. After 15 minutes, it's time to wipe off the excess oil wax. I am loving the crackle effect on this, and the red is peeking through just enough to give it that time-worn, layered look. I want to give the paper a little more depth, so I'm using the DIY clear wax and I'm adding a thin coat over the top of the paper. Then I'm going to follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak Wax in dark, and then I'll wipe off the excess. I want to add the depth, but I don't want so much of the dark to soak into the paper, and that's why you use the clear wax first. Now normally the dark oil wax will darken up the Sweet Pickins milk paint, but I think because the white was underneath of the milk paint, it didn't seem to darken it enough. So I'm going to apply the same dark wax over the entire tray, and then I'm going to wipe back the excess. I am really happy with the way this tray turned out, and I think it fits in perfectly with that time-worn feel. I think I'm most excited about this next project because I have been wanting to use this IOD bookish mold, and I know exactly what I want to do. I just hope it turns out the way I imagine. I'm using the Alumilite Fast Cast Resin in black. Now I get this from Amazon in the gallon jugs, but you can get them in smaller quantities. I'll have a link in my description box if you want to give it a try. I'll measure out the same amount of part A and part B in separate cups, and then I'll mix them together in a silicone cup for about 30 seconds. Then I'll carefully pour the resin into the molds. This is a fast-acting resin, so you do need to work quickly because in about 1 or 2 minutes it will start to set up and it should be fully set within 10 minutes. I want to be able to cut one of these molds down, so I'm going to pull these from the mold a little bit early while the resin is still soft. If I wait too long, the resin will be set too hard to cut. So at this point, a pair of scissors is all that I need, but I do have a little deburring tool that helps me shape the end and make it look a little more natural. So this tool is also from Amazon and it is very sharp. The top swivels and it can be a little finicky, but it's very helpful when shaving off little bits of the resin. If you noticed in my before picture of the 5 items we had to thrift, I had a little cutting board chalkboard sign that I had originally pulled for this challenge. But when I saw the papers in the maker's box, I had to switch that out for this sign. I made this one many years ago and I used my Cricut machine and some vinyl. So all I really needed to do was to remove the vinyl and then I could flip it over and use the backside as my base. To prep this, I am just applying 1 coat of the Fusion Mineral Paint in Victorian Lace from the Maker's Box. This design is from Connie at the Painted Photographer and is called Moments in Motion. I am so in love with this paper, and like I said earlier, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I need to cut this down to fit this little block sign, and then I'll use the Fusion decoupage and transfer gel to adhere it to the top of the sign. I will follow the same steps as I have in the previous projects, starting with one side of the paper to anchor it down and then working across the surface until the entire paper is adhered. For the bookish casting, I want this to tie into the front paper, so I'm taking a small piece of the same paper and I'm cutting out a piece to fit, and then I'll decoupage it to the casting. Never throw away your scraps. You never know when you will need them. To complement the turquoise in the design, I want to add a little bit of copper, so I'm going to be using the DIY Pennies from Heaven liquid patina. I'm also using the new IOD stamp set called Connoisseur's Library. I know that the liquid patina will not smudge once it's dry, so I will place a little bit of it on the thin mount and smooth it out with my brayer, and this is going to be my ink for the stamp. I have to work kind of quickly because this liquid patina does dry pretty quick, so I'll stamp the stamp into the liquid patina and then I'll center it over my bookish mold or casting and I'll commit and press it down. Sometimes when you're crafting around and finding out, you live and learn, right? So the casting has a lot of texture and the stamp at the top did not come out as clearly as I wanted. So I quickly took a wet wipe and wiped it off the resin before it had time to dry. I knew I wanted the copper at the top and the bottom of the casting, so I started applying the copper patina to the casting and decided to see what it would look like if I added it to the entire casting and just wipe off the excess on the textured part so that it was just left down in the cracks and crevices. I think I really like where this is going. Now I need to add in some turquoise wax. I got out my Pentart turquoise wax and using my finger, I added the wax to all the raised areas and the textures of this casting. And I can see my vision for this project is coming along. Once I've finished with the casting, I'm going to use some Titebond Quick and Thick and glue it to the side of the sign. I really liked the way the copper looked on the casting, so I decided to add some to the paper as well. I'm just adding the patina around the design wherever I think it would look good. But that eye, I want that eye to pop off the page, so I used a liner brush and I outlined the eye and added a few little dots to the pupil, and I am loving this. There are some projects that just speak to you, and this is one of them for me. It is definitely my favorite. We are finally to our fifth and final project for this challenge. The instructions were to use a pot or planter, and I chose this little planter from my stash. It's perfect to sit on a flat surface, or it could be hung on the hook with the hanger on the back. I'm using the Fusion Mineral Paint in Raw Silk from the Maker's Box, and I'm applying one good coat to the back of the planter. For the front of the planter, I am applying one coat of the DIY Old 57. And once that is dry, I'm going to take the Summer Crush from the Maker's Box and I'm going to dry brush across the front of it, hitting just the high points of the planter. I'm going to seal in the DIY paint before moving on to the next step, and I'm using the Wise Owl Varnish in Matte Finish. This next paper is also from Recycled Treasures, and it is just as gorgeous as the first paper. It's called Time Worn Tin Tile, and I think it's perfect for this planter. I'm going to measure out how much I need, and then I'm going to cut out a piece to fit the back of the planter. I trimmed off the side sections of the area that fits down inside of the planter so that it fits perfectly. I'm using the DIY liquid patina as my decoupage medium for this project. I'll apply a thin layer to the area inside of the planter, then I'll spritz my paper to relax the fibers. This helps with smoothing out any wrinkles or air bubbles. This part is a little finicky and it takes me a bit to get it lined up straight, but I think it's worth the effort. Once I get past the inside section, the rest is easygoing and it smooths out nice and flat. Now I just need to add in the relief cuts around the outer edge to keep the paper from curling up as it dries. Then I can take the finger sander and sand off the excess paper around the edges. I'm using the same Wise Owl varnish in matte to seal up this paper as well. The next few steps are going to be a little wet, so I want to make sure that I've got everything protected. The front of the planter is a little bright, and to change that, I'm adding in some watered down DIY weathered wood along with some spritz of water to make it drip down and darken the paint a little bit. Once it's dry, I'll seal this as well. If I would have waited to seal the front, it would have washed away the Old 57 and Summer Crush. Now that everything is sealed, I want to add more age and rust. I am using the Dixie Belle Patina Paint in Iron, and I'm using a stencil brush and pouncing the iron paint all around the planter where I think there would be rust. While the iron paint is still wet, I'm going to spritz on the green patina spray and then the blue patina spray. These sprays cause a chemical reaction with the paint to create this beautiful natural looking patina. Now the instructions say to leave this sit and dry on its own, but I don't have time for that, so I'm going to use my heat gun to speed up the process. And once this is dry, I'm going to use the copper patina paint and go over top of the iron paint to add some of those coppery tones to the planter. This time I put the copper paint into a little dish to keep from cross-contaminating the container with the copper paint. And same as the iron paint, while this copper is still wet, I'm going to spray it with the green patina spray, and then I'll follow that up with the blue patina spray. Then I'll hit it again with my heat gun. Now I have found that the chemical reaction does work a little bit better if you can leave it sit and dry on its own, but I am still loving how this is looking. To stop the chemical reaction between the paints and the sprays, it is recommended by Dixie Belle to use the patina guard and to seal it in. I'll warn you that this is a solvent-based product and it smells really strong, so be sure you're in a well-ventilated area when using this. Also, I suggest using a foam brush or a pouncer and then discarding it properly once you are through. There is so much texture with the faux rust and this beautiful paper in this project. It really looks like it is time worn. Let's take one final look at our scavenger hunt projects together. Each piece is a testament to that time-worn feel and can stand beautifully on its own as a statement decor item or can be layered into a vignette for that perfect touch. I hope this gave you some inspiration to create your own time-worn decor, and if you choose to take the challenge with the scavenger hunt items and the curated items in Sonnet's Maker's Box, please tag me so I can enjoy your creativity too. You can find me on Facebook as well as YouTube. And don't forget to check out the link to watch all of the creatives from Sonnet's membership group who joined in on this fun second anniversary scavenger hunt this month, and who also create videos every month to provide more inspiration. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hype this video. Then join me for more DIYs, vintage-inspired projects, and creative ideas right here on our channel. Keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I'll see you in the next DIY. But until then, here are some more DIY videos to inspire your creativity.